Welcome to the Hills to Ripples podcast with the crew of Harnessed Adrenaline. Harnessed Adrenaline's mission is promoting outdoor recreation through education, conservation, and advocacy. We hope this podcast allows you the opportunity to learn about hunting, fishing, and any other outdoor recreation activity. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hills to Ripples podcast. Season 1, Episode 10, Trials and Tribulations with the Parks and Wildlife. We got Nick and Charles here from the crew of Harnessed Adrenaline, and I'm going to throw it on over to Charles.
Guys, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It's a very raw and real episode. There's no notes here. This is just off of a couple stories off Nick and I's brain. First and foremost, I want to say we have the utmost respect for the men and women of the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Game and Fishes across the states, and all that. But unfortunately, like every profession, there's a small percentage that unfortunately are in it for themselves, or maybe something, some dirty money, if you will, in it for a different cause. And so in this episode, you guys are going to hear a couple stories that truly are surrounded by that. None of this is to say, hey, we sought out to break a rule, we or anything like that, because to be transparent, there wasn't any rules broken. That's why nothing has been filed or anything like that. But I just kind of want to give you guys that quick heads up. This isn't to bash any game and fish. This isn't to bash any parks and wildlife at all. If anything, it's just to put people on notice that, as ethical, as proper as you may be, there's always someone out there with an underlying plan that you could run into. And this isn't telling you how to take that on. This is just simply telling you what happened to us from our experience. I hope that you guys don't have to face anything like it. So, yeah, Nick, do you want to start with your story, or do you want me to start?
Go ahead and start, man, and then I'll finish it off. But yeah, that's absolutely true. We implore on people and truly advocate to not break the laws, not break rules and regulations. There's no reason to in today's society with as much camera activities going on, as many people are in the woods. It just doesn't benefit anyone. It makes us look, like we touched on as far as the wolf stuff, it makes us look bad. We are not just representing ourselves or people that we're with, we are representing a lifestyle, a group of hobbyists as far as outdoorsmen and women. So yeah, there's just no reason to purposefully and willingly go against laws and regulations. There's so many tools to make sure that you're as safe as possible and you're following everything. But like Charles mentioned, unfortunately, sometimes it's just not enough. But thankfully, we do have ways in place to help benefit us at the end, which you guys will hear about in my story, especially. But yeah, man, go ahead, Charles, start it off, man, because your story is crazy. And I know we've talked about it a bunch, but I don't know how many people you share that particularly with. And this is just a huge part of advocacy. It's talking about the bad times, unfortunately, the bad situations that we are able to overcome. So hopefully it relates to somebody's story, and hopefully it's a learning experience nonetheless for all of us.
Yeah, no, for sure. So this happened a while back. As I was about 13, so I'd probably say give or take 2003, 2004. Like I said before, I've hunted my whole entire life, and one year we were listening to AM radio. I mean, we were in Craig, Colorado in 2003. As you guys could imagine, there wasn't much. There wasn't much for radio stations or really anything, so you're listening to like Art Bell at night, which scared the heck out of me, by the way. But we're listening to this AM radio, we're cruising down, it's the morning time, we're going, out for our hunt. And over the radio, we actually hear CB transmissions. So how those got crossed, I'm not sure to this day. But They're like, hey, they're coming to the field. They're coming to the field. They're still on private. They're still on public. They're still on public. They're still on public. Okay, sounds good. And so we're like, oh, there's a cornfield right here. Oh, there's this whatever landmark these guys were talking about right here. Oh, they're talking about a herd of 40 elk, literally 80 yards to the right of us. Pull over, get my cousins, get what is needed off the road, and lo and behold, you know, we get two cows, a camp up the road from us with a husband, no, it was a grandpa, grandma, and a grandson. Actually got the herd bull out of it too. It was so very successful. You know, we're all meat hunters and all that, whatnot. We're all good. We process the elk, or well, we start to take care of the elk in terms of, you know, gutting it and all that. Get them taken care of. Get them back to camp. About 8 p.m. that night, the game wardens roll through. And to preface, sorry, I should have started with this. To preface, every night, so this is probably maybe 4 or 5 nights into this hunt, and every night we're hearing legit semis, like a legit flatbed semi, and we can't tell, but it has a lot of light load on it across the whole thing. Okay, so that's just a preface, but back to the story. It's 8 p.m. give or take, and the wardens come up, and so we're shooting 300 Weatherbees like my family always has. This isn't a new thing that started because some company got sponsored by Weatherby. We've been shooting Weatherbees my whole life. And 130-06. So the game wardens come to camp with a 243 shell, a 270 shell, and a 300 Winchester. Man, you know, there's a couple of each of them, but point being calibers that we did not have in camp. And so they're like, hey, a couple of spiked bulls were taken out of that herd. This is about 4 years, maybe 3-4 years after spikes became illegal to hunt in Colorado. Fun fact, the last year they were legal to hunt, shout out to my cousin, he knocked one down out near Rifle, but that was many, many moons ago. I was a child. And so they come in, hey, you know, 2 spikes were taken down. We believe it, we've gotten word that it was your camp and the camp up just north of you. And we're like, well, you know, we can't speak for anybody, but we know that we have 2 cow elk legally harvested, and we did see the camp up top. They got the herd bull, but that's all they got, and this is all we have. Game warden pulls my cousin aside and was like, well, guys, someone's got to get a ticket. And they have these shells, that these empty rounds that aren't even ours. And we're like, well, maybe someone does, but not us, you know. And the story goes that they actually ended up writing 2 of my cousin's tickets for harvesting illegal spikes that they never actually harvested, but let us keep their cows. So think about that. Only 1 tag per person. And so that part in itself is kind of weird. One of the outfitters who was illegally marking property up in that area was caught in the morning urinating in front of the grandpa and grandma at their camp, talking all kinds of mess to them. So we're like, okay, you know, we got our meat. I think I might have got a deer that year, and we're like, hey, let's just leave. I actually scoped myself shooting it, missing an elk a couple days, or like a day after. And so I had a little, you know, the notch on my eye. It was like a 3x9x40 loophole old scope. So, I mean, there was no rubber piece on the outside. And so I was cut up pretty decently. And so we're back into Craig. We're all packed up. And where do we stop here? We stop at the Safeway there. Yeah, I think it was a Safeway. Could have been a Walmart. Sorry. And the cashier's like, "Oh, you must have got that on your eye when you guys were shooting at those elk." I'm like, what? You know? And it was like, "Yeah, it's actually in the paper." And we're like, "Oh, yay! You know, this is great for us." So we go ahead and look at this paper, and I think it's called the Craig Herald at the time, and it said, "Quote: Big Black Camp has great success." End quote. Like literally front page stuff. And so we're like, "What the hell?" And so we leave Safeway. We're like, we're gonna grab something to eat and then head home, man. Go to McDonald's, and this elderly lady stops my dad, and she's like, "Hey, I heard you guys had a really successful trip. You know, I own a processing plant, just in case you need that service." And we're like, "What in the world?" Turn it around. You know, cousins had got their fines or whatever for no reason at all. The game warden had threatened to take their licenses, but again left them with their animals they had legally harvested, and gave them a fine. And so turn around, probably 6-7 months down the road. No, I wouldn't. It's probably a few years actually. I believe maybe 2 or 3 years later, we get this. We see, you know, just in the CPW, largest wild game bust in history, and it was in game warden, sheriffs, and outfitters. And don't quote that part. I'm not 100% sure if the sheriffs were involved, but a couple game wardens and outfitters were actually involved in this. These people were coming with flatbed trailers and wiping out animals like antelope, deer, elk, etc. And also the outfitters were illegally posting land and what do they call it? Like trafficking game, to where they would kind of herd them in, and
Yep.
hey, they're coming here, this, that, and whatever. And so, the reason I said that story, guys, is I just want people to know, like, no matter how ethical you are, just always have your guard up. I mean, these I can't express really what or how that I felt in that moment. I was a 12, 13-year-old kid, but every time I talk about it, I'm just like, it blows my mind because it doesn't seem like something real. And
Yeah.
I watch wardens on YouTube a lot, the show in Montana, and you see some of this stuff, and you're like, well, yeah, those people deserve to be locked up. And then I think back on this story, I'm like, man, we did nothing wrong, and everyone knows our business. We're in the papers. The Big Black Camp has great success. I mean, it was just a crapshoot of a time, really. And so
Yeah.
that's my story, man. It's short, sweet, and kind of rough, but every time I tell it, it kind of gets my blood boiling a little bit.
Oh, absolutely, man. It brings up triggers. I mean, it's so ridiculous. And, again, unfortunately, your cousins took the brunt of that, which thankfully, like you said, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but they took the fault for other people.
100%.
And, there's a lot of that goes on. Again, it's like what I said in the beginning is there's no point in breaking the rules. You never know who's watching you on the mountain. You think you're the only person, and that's not the case. And even a situation that there's a gentleman in Utah when all the shed closure stuff started going on for Utah, and he filmed with his spotting scope from a long ways away, DNR planting a shed for people to pick up, obviously illegally, and then so they can catch them. And it's just unfortunate that that's what our, in a sense, society has come to, is that they don't always catch the people in the moment necessarily, but they'll go out and purposely set up an opportunity for someone to make a mistake and then take full advantage of it. And,
yeah,
especially with your situation, it's like that could have been so much worse, as well as it immediately spread notice in the entire town. I mean, reputation matters in today's society. I mean,
Oh, 100%.
especially in small towns. It's,
And if you're a black family that hunts, everyone knows you. I
oh,
mean,
especially up there.
yeah, it's like, oh, the black family who hunts. Oh yeah, I see them every year. They camp here.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy how that situation played out. And I'm thankful that, it was a huge weight off of your guys' shoulders when everything came out, I'm sure. But no matter what, that doesn't going away. That feeling of, again, all those emotions that it brings up don't go away. That's just not something you forget.
It just doesn't allow you to truly ever relax because, man, dude, such a high, in terms of the day. I mean, it's 9:30 a.m. and we have two elk down, and this is back when there was, or I shouldn't say there wasn't any knowledge, but my family didn't have knowledge like we do, like maybe people who study elk and elk hunting do today. And so like we were thankful if we got a deer, one doe for amongst 9 people. And to get two cow elk, man, we're all pumped up, and then I mean, just makes you feel sick to your stomach because you're like, you feel like you did wrong and you didn't. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the optics being used for a bad reason. Think about all the optics the great optics we have today being used for a good reason unintentionally. People could be out
Right.
scouting for a different season, and if someone's over there doing something illegal, to your point, Nick, I mean, dude, they could
Yeah.
get tagged up.
Yep.
Someone will record it. Someone has an all-in system. Someone has a phone scope system, a MagView system, and hey,
Yep.
yeah, you can see someone clear as day.
Yep. Exactly. No, 100%, man. And I know you've told me that story numerous times, and I've been there when you shared it with a few other people, and it never sits well with me. It just doesn't. And unfortunately, no matter what, there's always evil in this world. We all know that. It always exists. But, that's where, again, you could be doing everything right and still have someone try to take advantage of you in some way, shape, or form.
Elkhorn Coffee Roasters at elkhorncoffeeroasters.com has been our longest sponsorship. If you're like us on the team, finding consistently great coffee is almost as tough as finding that 350 plus class bull. Scott and April have solved this search. Most orders are roasted just after the time of ordering. Go check out their selections, from whole bean to steep bags for your on the mountain adventures. Use promo code HA for 15% off orders of $25 or more.
Here at Harness Adrenaline, we understand how important hydration is, not only for hiking miles into the backcountry, fly fishing the Colorado River, or while summiting peaks across the nation. That's why we are so excited to tell you about the all-encompassing Grail GeoPress filter and purifier, One Press Global Purification. Right now, use Adrenaline20 for 20% off of any order, and be sure to check out all the other products available at grail.com.
My story is definitely not as, I don't want to call it dramatic, because obviously that legitimately happened. That was something that you had to experience and go through. But I'm thankful. I'm pretty stubborn, and I have always, not always, but I have been one that doesn't just blindly agree with authority. If authority is proven to be just, then I usually follow suit. But you know me, I'm definitely somewhat of a rebel in that manner, not purposefully and not maliciously. But if I feel something's done wrong to me or people that I know, I try to my best to stand up. And in my case, I had gone down to, this is right at the height of COVID. It was in 2020, spring of 2020. And I took Cookie and my buddy John, and Cookie had his son, and we took a trip down to New Mexico. And I'd been looking at this place for months. I had been researching. I called Fish and Game customer service line multiple times, had confirmed this area was open, camping was open, everything. So we take the run down there, and it was in early April. And New Mexico doesn't have a shed season. So, well, let me re-say that. They have, some areas are closed. Obviously, that's something that I learned on this trip. but in particular, statewide, there's no actual statewide shed closure. So we went down, found a good spot, and it is a good spot. A lot of snow, and started hiking. Spent the whole day hiking, getting snowed on, happy as can be. Got back to camp, started a fire, and as we were kind of just hanging out, Fish and Game shows up. All right, no big deal. No one else is up here. He's just checking campgrounds. No problem. Immediately, it was off. He immediately started questioning whether we were just camping or walking, which I thought was very strange. I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter. When you go into the woods camping, you're probably going to walk and explore. But why
Usually
that was
happens,
so
yeah.
right. But why was that his first general direction for the conversation? Well, after everything, he starts pulling people aside, running information, and he pulls my buddy John, who's actually a military veteran, and this pisses me off more than anything. He pulls us aside, and John comes back, and he's like, I just got a ticket. We're all getting tickets. And I said, you must be joking me. The Fish and Game officer told us, the area was open to camping. However, you are not allowed to walk around from camp. That supposedly the area was closed to walking, is what he told us. And so at this point, my blood pressure's going up. I'm getting aggravated. So him and I do our thing. He starts running my information. And I said, just looked at him plainly. I said, you really are giving us a ticket right now? And he said, yeah, you're not supposed to be up here. Well, you just said that we are. You said we're allowed to camp. We're not allowed to hike. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Okay, well, here's my phone. Here's my call list from 3 weeks. And isn't that your customer service number on there that directly goes to this area's Fish and Game department? Yeah, that looks like it's it. So if I called them 3 times before even coming down here, and all 3 times got the same answer from different people that this area is open and we can shed hunt in here, then don't you think that we should be able to even just get a warning in this situation? No, not at all. It's your responsibility. Absolutely agree with that. No problem. I understand. But I called your customer service Fish and Game number for that particular region of New Mexico, and they told me it was open. All of your gates are open, and there's not one single sign that says there's a seasonal closure to hiking. Well, it doesn't matter. We'll just have to deal with it later. Fine, whatever. Not going to argue with you on the mountain. That's never a good option. Do not argue with law enforcement during the situation, ever.
100%.
Your blood pressure's up. You're not thinking rationally most times. Everyone's in a very high tense situation. It's just not something I recommend doing. Don't fight him on the side of the road, in the woods, whatever. So we all take our tickets. As soon as I hop in the car, because I think Cookie was driving, as soon as I hop in the car, I told him, I said, you stop at every single gate on our way out. And he did. I stopped at every single gate, took pictures of every single sign. The one sign that didn't hit me until I actually went to court was a sign that was face down, covered in about 6 inches of snow. And I didn't think anything of it, but I still took a picture of it because no matter what, I think it was a sign that was supposed to be posted, which plays out in my favor down the road. So leave the campground. Immediately, we get out before it's Friday. I forget what time, but it was before the Fish and Game office closed. So we get out, immediately start calling, trying to get someone, supervisor, anybody on the phone. Can't get anybody. They pretty much just locked up the phone lines, whatever. So no big deal. We all go back to, we actually drove to a completely different spot in some super low country, camped that night, and then just left. We left the next day. We were so fed up. We were so irritated, all of us. I was so irritated that he gave my buddy, a military veteran who is a disabled veteran that has fought for this country, a ticket for hiking. I was so livid. It still gets me fired up. And so anyway, long story short, somewhat, Cookie and John pay the ticket. They're not as stubborn as I am. They thought it'd be easier. They went to court, took their fines. Well, oddly enough, they both went to the same judge the same day. But my information, for whatever reason, whether it was because I gave the officer a little bit of lip or flack or whatever you want to consider it, because I was a little bit agitated during the situation, mine went to a different judge in a different county on a different time and place completely. So I missed my court date. They sent a warrant to my house, or issued a warrant, sent me information to my house. Once I got it in the mail, immediately called the district attorney's office and got my court case figured out. Thankfully, I was able to call the judge directly when he was in session one day, told him my situation. He didn't have any consideration for me at that time. No big deal. He's not supposed to. He sees hundreds of cases continuously. I get it. Nothing's personal. Then, after going through court, told him I was going to fight the ticket. I wasn't accepting the charges. Showed him some of my evidence. Showed the district attorney my evidence. Well, about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I get another letter in the mail saying that my charge went from essentially what's a higher level misdemeanor, because they tried to write it up as trespassing, which is ridiculous because we were on public land. But anyway, it went to a felony level charge. I forget the exact terminology that they tried to use. So again, got on the phone with the district attorney, talked to them, figured out, oh, well, so-and-so, actually, we've noticed that people have had those happen. We've had charges that have magically changed. We'll get that adjusted for you. So go to see the judge again. He sees all the paperwork on their end. At this point in time, I ended up getting a public defender because I could tell something was off. This whole situation from the start did not sit well with me. So I got a public defender. He did his best. And truly, I thank that man very much that he fought it continuously. They kept trying to do continuation after continuation. This is now a year and a half I have been fighting this thing off and on, missing work days to be on the court calls because everything was Zoom meeting at that point. And finally, the last day, the judge, something clicked in his head, and he saw my picture of the sign on the ground and an exact identical picture that the game warden took where he lifted the sign up that talked about the seasonal closure. So yes, that area is actually closed to hiking certain times of the year, and it has a split season. So it's closed like the beginning of April for a couple of weeks, and then it opens, and then it's closed again in June. Not exactly sure how that works out, but that's how they do it. So the judge looks at both pictures and he says, well, why is this sign on the ground with snow on it, but then afterwards it's facing up? Right. And the game warden got on the call and he said, that's the sign that shows the closure. And the judge just reamed the game warden and the district attorney, and he said something to the effect of, it doesn't matter. I can put a sign out in front of Carl's Jr. that says McDonald's, and it doesn't mean that it's Carl's Jr.
Right.
And I just started laughing. I had to mute my phone because I was laughing so hard. And thankfully, the entire case situation got thrown out. But after a year and a half of fighting to have to prove myself that I did my diligence to find this area, to call Fish and Game, to see that nothing was actually posted, which Fish and Game is required to do regardless, they finally threw it out. And I thanked my public defender, thanked the judge for his time, got off the call, and that was it. I didn't go back to New Mexico for, well, let's see. I think I went back with Taylor in, I was going to say almost 3 years. And like I said, I was just absolutely mortified and fed up and just disgusted that this Fish and Game officer purposely and knowingly took advantage of 3 people. And again, my buddy, you want to take advantage of me? Fine, that's fine. My buddy, John, who is a disabled military veteran, fought for this country, got blown up over in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you have the nerve to write him a ticket for that type of thing? We weren't out there shooting animals. We didn't even end up picking up sheds. And you literally gave no chance for me to explain the situation and didn't even care that we had mistakenly gone into an area that was closed, that had nothing posted, nothing online, nothing in far as the customer service hotline goes for the regional office down there. And, oddly enough, I went down there this year, and shout out to Shiloh Valley Adventures, I think is his name on Instagram, Eric. He's an awesome dude. He's a guide down there. He knows the Fish and Game officer that wrote me a ticket personally and said, that guy is 2 ways. He's either the greatest person you've ever met or he's your worst enemy. And on that day, for whatever reason, we were his worst enemy. So again, it's just unfortunate. It was a learning situation that even though I called and did my diligence, the best I possibly could to figure out what was actually open, it wasn't good enough in that situation. Thankfully, the justice system prevailed, which even that it doesn't always. But I knew I was not going to roll over and take a ticket for something that I didn't think I truly did wrong. And even more so, hopefully, educated the officers in that area to make sure that their signs and their postages are properly up so people can understand when they're traveling around. And hopefully, it humbled that fish and game officer just a smidge to not just look at everyone as a meal ticket, um, as a tax collection, because
Right.
essentially he got money out of two people and I walked away clean. I didn't have to pay court fines or anything. So no matter what, you can do your diligence all day long. I implore people, do everything you can to cover your ass. CYA. I was always taught that. I know Charles was taught that. Cover your ass no matter what. Pictures, video, screenshots of your phone conversations, whatever the case may be. Because no matter what, it's at the end of the day, it's your word against theirs. And because they have a badge that from the government, they're considered automatically higher, unfortunately, in this world. And again, that is not a dig at any fish and game officer. I know so many of them that are amazing. The guys down in my region are always amazing. Checked in my Bobcat, checked in my Bear, constantly helping us to learn and educate. I have some of their cell phone numbers personally, just because that's the kind of relationship I want to have with my fish and game officers around me in case I knew I'd need their help in any situation. And most of them are great, great people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of factors that go into other situations and other circumstances. But no matter what, you cover your ass. They can be your best buddy one day, but no matter what, they have a job to do. And if they need to, they'd be happy to just throw you under the bus for their job.
Yep, and that's 100% it, guys. I mean, you look at both of these stories, right? The story with my cousins hunting and the game wardens kind of screwed us over, and we got called the big black camp. Or you look at Nick's story. This is serious what Nick was saying in terms of, hey, I'm never going to go back to New Mexico. I literally was joking with him. I was like, dude, what if I get a tag just north of Silver City, which we all know where I'm talking about exactly. I was like, are you going to come with me? He's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, no,
And,
I told you. I said, I told you I wouldn't even buy gas in that state.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
No, and thankfully Taylor has really pushed me to do it. And again, meeting Eric this last year, I think there's a lot of benefit to New Mexico as a state. Not just for out hunting in general, but outdoor adventures. It's a beautiful state. There's a lot of great things to see. But I will continue to do my diligence. And now, unfortunately, I am paranoid. When I go into a spot, I'll tell people, you stop at every single gate because I will take pictures of every single sign posted because I'm not going to remember what I read.
Yep.
So I'm going to have proof of every single sign, anything that's posted, even if it's just watch out for bears or watch out, keep dogs on leash, whatever it is. Every single sign's getting taken pictures of. And that's unfortunate that, again, Charles, in your situation, you have these triggers that are essentially like a trauma from that. And I have triggers now too, where I'm like paranoid, even going in around my own state. When I go explore new areas around Colorado, man, I'm always calling. I'm getting fish and game numbers immediately, calling them the day before I leave. And it doesn't need to be like that, but also it's a learning experience in me to do that extra step to prepare myself for a new spot, a new area, new campground, whatever the case is.
100%, man.
So
sorry for it getting loud here, by the way. I'm in a wind tunnel being 95 degrees and I have some fans running. But yeah, no, I mean, that's what it is, guys, is just do as much as you can. Like in Nick's case, do as much as you can. And just be aware is what I would say. Even if stuff seems rudimentary to you, be like, hey, this might be the one time I need to take a double look at that, or I need to take a picture of that, or I mean,
An extra phone call.
Yeah, I mean, have buddies or reach out to us honestly on like social media, like, hey, I'm going here. We're not gonna throw it out there for anybody. Do you guys have any suggestions? Have you guys been here before? And that could be for looking for game, or just kind of if you're wondering, maybe you feel like something fishy's going on or whatever. And we have a lot of contacts. To Nick's point, I mean, Jameson, literally works for the Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
Yep.
And he's on our team, so it's not like we're out there seeking anything. Nick did literally everything. I can't, and he can't express, and I can't express his actual how distraught this situation had him. I mean,
oh yeah,
he wasn't wanting to do anything in, near, or around that state at all. Like I mean, so just always go with somebody that obviously always helps, because to Nick's point, going up against someone with a badge, if you absolutely have to, in that case, having two people say the same thing is way better. But yeah, so I mean, just even though there's a lot of good game wardens and all that out there, there's also unfortunately a couple bad apples, so you might get stuck with that.
No, and it's proven. I mean, in Arizona, everyone knows the case I'm talking about, but that outfitter got caught and a bunch of game wardens got caught. So no matter what, they're humans, and everyone can make a mistake. It's unfortunate though. If the mistake continues, it becomes a habit.
100%,
So,
man.
But on a lighter note, don't forget, guys, Elkhorn Coffee Roasters, Grail. Discount code for Grail is Adrenaline20. And Charles, what's the discount code for Elkhorn Coffee Roasters?
HA. Yep. HA, you'll get 15% off, $25, or is it $25 or more? Also, we have a new discount here with Ridge belts. Really cool military grade silicone. What I like them for is that every belt that you buy, they actually give you a plastic belt. And I don't know if you all know or not, but I travel for work, so I probably travel 190,000 miles a year. And I can just simply 2 seconds plop that metal belt to the plastic belt off and walk right through TSA.
Yep, that's going to be the same with me, man. I'm switching to that plastic one here soon when I'm getting ready to fly.
Yeah.
I'll be doing a lot more traveling, and honestly, I love Ridge belts. I love the Elkhorn Coffee Roasters. Me and Charles drink coffee like it's going out of style. There's nothing more I enjoy, and that Grail has been tops. Shed season, there's been multiple times where Cookie and I run out of water, and there's so much water around where we shed hunt, and it's 5 minutes to fill up bottles, man. I tell you, that thing is so perfect. So definitely implore everyone to get on some of those products. Let those guys know that we sent you their way. Tell them how awesome it is. And just truly appreciate all the support. No matter what, educate yourself as much as possible in this life and enjoy it while you're doing it.
Yeah, get after it, guys, and just stay healthy, stay good. And go Nuggets if you're watching NBA.
No, goodness, go Nuggets. You would drop that in there.
Well, we got 3 games for the game starting. So.
All right. Get after it, guys.
Get after it, and also go ahead, check us out at Harnessed Adrenaline on Instagram, on YouTube, and on our website at harnessedadrenaline.com. Have a great rest of your time, and we will look forward to talking to you guys next week.